Dear student, good afternoon to all of you. As we know, due to coronavirus COVID-19, we are forced to close ourselves in the rooms, and the subject public international law has been allotted to me to teach you. In last 20 to 22 class lectures, we have successfully completed concept and development of international law. Now it is the unit second that talks about sources and subjects of international law. As far as sources of international law is concerned, customs, treaties, general principles of law recognized by civilized nations, General Assembly resolutions, juristic works, other sources are important component of sources of international law. As far as Article 38 of the Statute of International Court of Justice is concerned, it provides that the court whose function is to decide in accordance with international law such disputes as are submitted to it shall apply international conventions, whether general or particular, establishing rules expressly recognized by the contesting states. B. International custom as evidence of general practice accepted as law. C. The general principles of law recognized by civilized nations. D. Subject to the provisions of Article 59, judicial decisions and the teaching of the most highly qualified publicists of the various nations as a subsidiary means for the determination of rules of law. Clause 2 of 38 say that this provision shall not prejudice the power of the court to decide a case ex equit bono. Meaning is that just equity, justice and good conscience. So Article 38 1 of the Statute of International Court of Justice gives a key to understand what are the sources of public international law. Let us see firstly discuss customary law as a source of international law. The source span the history of international law and are authoritatively recognized in Article 38 of the same statute of the ICJ. Customary law has historically come first in many areas of law and will be discussed first. Customary law consists of the rules that emerge from the experience of states over time as they try to resolve interstate problems. As the International Society of States has built up, older states have socialized new states with the rules already developed. For most states of international society, their official statements, court decisions, legislative acts, and diplomatic behavior will reflect that these states do accept international society's custom. Now, customary rules became law when there was a conviction that the expected behavior is opinio juris sive necessitatis. Shortly, it is called as a opinio juris. It is a legal rule that it is necessary to obey. Opinio juris means a legal rule that is necessary to obey. Which legal rule is necessary to obey? Actually, it is felt by the state concerned. A brief definition is that a customary rule is a general practice accepted as law. Again, I am repeating. A customary rule is a general practice accepted as law. Customary law is still important today especially in the area of state duties and rights, state immunity and state succession. These areas have been slow to give way to written treaties that a large number of states are willing to ratify. In some areas, states are reluctant to give up the latitude of choice. Customary law gives them and that the written rules of treaties might take away. This faith in customary law remains strong to a degree that states will sometimes challenge the written law. Even the UN Charter, with arguments drawn from customary law. During Ronald Reagan, he was president of United States. He attacked Libya in 1986 with Air Force and Navy bombers as an act of reprisal for Libyan terrorist attacks against US service personnel in Germany. While the Security Council of the United Nations is supposed to approve the use of force, reprisal as an act of national self-enforcement has a long history in customary law. To the Reagan administration, the customary rules on reprisal appeared to have legitimacy on a par with the law of the UN Charter. However, if one predominant trend stands out concerning customary law, it is that many areas of international law, including the law of sea, war and diplomacy, have gone through a codification process, becoming the written law of treaties. There is solid reason why much of customary law has been codified. Christine Gray has observed that as a non-European states, for instance Ethiopia, Japan and Turkey, entered the Eurocentric international legal system, it became difficult to create new customary law satisfactory to the growing diversity of states. The number of states question. You know that customary law emerged because of majority of the states practice. If a greater number of states in the world follow a particular set practice, then only international custom is recognized, or firstly it is emerged. So number of states are very important factor. The 1969 North Sea Continental Shelf case that came before the United Nations International Court of Justice is instructive regarding the number of states and even the amount of time needed to bolster customary law. Meaning is that how many states practice unanimously, commonly, are sufficient to recognize as a rule of customary law. Second, what are the time span? 5 साल में, 10 साल में, 3 साल में कि 30 साल में, कितने समय में यह रूल कस्टम बन जाएगा. So question of number of states and time duration becomes very, very important. So in case of North Sea Continental Shelf in 1969, the case was decided by International Court of Justice at Hague. Here Denmark, Germany and Netherlands were adjacent country and they share the North Sea Continental Shelf. But there was a question as to how these three countries would divide their continental shelf. कॉन्टिनेंटल सेल्फ जो पानी के नीचे वो धरातल है उसको कॉन्टिनेंटल सेल्फ कहते हैं. सो how these three countries would divide their continental shelf into three national jurisdictions. Before this case, in 1958, there was Geneva Convention on the continental shelf, and one of four new sea territories proposed at the time by the United Nations Law Commission, UN International Law Commission, might have given guidance. Unfortunately, this Geneva Convention on the Continental Shelf 1958 was signed by Germany, but it had not ratified it. Germany also took note of the fact that the treaty called for a settlement based on the equidistant principle. Since Germany's coast is concave, while Denmark and the Netherlands have moderately convex. तो यहां जर्मनी का जो कोस्टल एरिया था, कोस्टल लाइन था, वो कॉन्केव था, बट नीदरलैंड और डेनमार्क का जो कोस्ट लाइन एरिया वो कॉन्वेक्स था. Therefore, to give each and every contestant countries equal area of continental shelf was Herculean task. बहुत मुश्किल काम था ये, कैसे डिसाइड किया जाए. Since Germany's coast is concave and Denmark and Netherlands have moderately convex, Germany would receive a much smaller share of the shelf than if the division was simply based on share, so more or less in proportion to the length of their sea coast. International Court of Justice did not agree with the Denmark and Netherlands that 1958 Geneva Convention should control the outcome. यह ध्यान रखिए, नीदरलैंड and Denmark said that the problem relating to division of continental shelf area in North Sea should be according to the Geneva Convention on Continental Shelf 1958. ये उनका कहना था कि जिनेवा कन्वेंशन के हिसाब से आप डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करिए एरिया. The ICJ did not agree, and court recognized that 1958's convention had come into force only in 1964 with the requisite 22 ratification, and by 1969 the convention could still just claim 39 state ratification. The court failed to agree that 1958 convention on continental shelf had sufficient standing to imply a customary rule with opinio juris on non-participating states. यहां क्या है कि ये जर्मनी ने साइन तो किया था, रेटिफाई नहीं किया था. इसका मतलब मैटर कुड नॉट बी डिसाइडेड एज पर द कन्वेंशन ऑन द कॉन्टिनेंटल सेल्फ, इट वाज अ ट्रीटी. तो जब जर्मनी उसका पार्टी कंप्लीटली नहीं बना तो उसके ऊपर उसके प्रोविजन कैसे लागू होते. उनका यह कहना था, खासकर डेनमार्क और जर्मनी का, कि बिकॉज 39 states have ratified this treaty, therefore its provision has been emerged as a customary international law, and therefore it should be applied on the Germany also, and matters should be disposed of according to that provisions. But court has not accepted this contention of Denmark and Netherlands. Presumably, there was an insufficient number of states and time involved to create a customary rule for a non-adhering state. The International Court of Justice for the first time substantiated the thesis that provisions in treaties can sometimes generate new norm of customary law for non-treaty states Only not in this case. A treaty should have the support of a strong majority of states before the claim is made that a given treaty can imply norms applicable to non-treaty states. Since ICJ could not find that the equidistant principle was a customary rule for Germany, the court decided that the three parties should use equitable principle. Court decided that all these three parties, Germany, Netherlands and Denmark, should use the equitable principle to divide the continental shelf, a legal principle drawn from many domestic practices. This principle gave Germany a larger share of the continental shelf of the North Sea than of the sea. Than otherwise would have been the case. Interestingly, when the 1958 conventions of the sea recommended by International Commission were updated and integrated into 1982 United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea, Article 83 of the Continental Shelf section of the Law of Sea Convention called for equitable solutions and not the equidistant principle. The large majority of states have ratified the laws with a few notable exceptions. So number of states are frequent questions, कि कितने देश एक पर्टिकुलर रूल को फॉलो करते हैं, ये मैटर करता है. दूसरा है टाइम क्वेश्चन. The traditional approach requiring a long period of time for customary rule to take hold is underscored by the Packet-Havana and Lola case. कि कोई रूल अगर कस्टमरी कोई नॉर्म कोई यूजेस कस्टमरी रूल बनता है तो उसके लिए एक लंबा ड्यूरेशन होना चाहिए. यह हमेशा सही नहीं हो सकता. इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द फैक्ट एंड सर्कमस्टांसेस इन द एरिया वेयर इट इज गोइंग टू इमर्ज. तो यहां पर पॉकेट हवाना केस का डिसीजन बहुत बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. इट इज ए लैंडमार्क केस on the customary international law. Pocket Havana and Lola case. Usually decades, if not centuries. Usually decades, if not centuries, may be involved. William W. Bishop point out that it is difficult to say exactly how much time must pass for a custom to become customary law. Here Pocket Havana and Lola case is very important, and this case was decided by the United States Supreme Court in the year of 1900, सन 1900 में. Let us see a brief fact and decision of the case. The Pocket Havana and Lola were coastal fishing boats operating near the Cuban coast while flying the Spanish flag. When the Spanish-American War began in 1898, आपको पता होगा कि स्पेन और पुर्तगाल दुनिया की दो पुरानी नवल पावर थी और उन्होंने पूरे वर्ल्ड को बांट रखा था, ओल्ड वर्ल्ड और न्यू वर्ल्ड. तो जितना न्यू वर्ल्ड था वो स्पेन के हिस्से में गया था और पुरानी दुनिया जो थी ओल्ड वर्ल्ड वो पुर्तगाल के हिस्से में आई थी. इसलिए आप देखते हैं कि पुर्तगाली कॉलोनी थी यहाँ, मतलब पुर्तगीज वेयर एस्टैब्लिश देयर बेस इन इंडिया, और पूरा गोवा लंबे समय तक उनके कब्जे में था. 19 से नेहरू गवर्नमेंट ने फिर उसको सैनिक कार्यवाही के द्वारा फिर छुड़वाया. यू नो ऑल दिस हिस्ट्री. सो हियर when the Spanish-American War began in 1898, a US naval squadron intercepted and took the two fishing vessels as prize of war. Usually a prize is suspected of serving the enemy in some capacity. The appropriate federal district and circuit courts upheld the seizure as legal acts of war. The Supreme Court reversed the lower courts and returned the two fishing vessels to their owners. The majority opinion of the court included an extensive review of various states' practice regarding the state of fishing boats going back to the policy of Henry IV of England in the early 15th century. Over the centuries, numerous states made an exception for fishing vessels in their prize courts. Thus, customary law on the matter appeared clear. Moreover, this case resorted to customary law as a source because the US Constitution, treaties and federal law failed to address the issue at hand. Once wireless codes could be transmitted ship to ship and ship to land, the status of fishing craft began to change. This technology was available before the First World War, although it was usually found only on major ships. In 1912, the Titanic teletyped for help after it struck in iceberg. By the time of the Second World War, even small fishing craft would likely have voice radio and thus could serve as spies for the naval forces of their country. When the famous Jimmy Doolittle mission of 1942 was approaching Japan, the American carrier equipped with P-25 medium bombers was spotted by Japanese fishing craft. The Americans sank the fishing boats as quickly as possible but had to assume the Japanese fishermen sent a radio message to Japan. For this reason, the raid was launched several hundred miles ahead of the planned launch point. The raid was an overall success, but several planes, due to the early launch, ran out of fuel and had to ditch in the sea near the coast of China, their destination. तो पॉकेट हवाना केस कस्टमरी लॉ पे बहुत ही लैंडमार्क डिसीजन है यूएस सुप्रीम कोर्ट का. क्योंकि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने लोअर कोर्ट का डिसीजन रिवर्स किया और दोनों ही फिशिंग वेसल को उनके ओनर को वापस कर दिया. थैंक यू ऑल. इवन इफ देयर इज एन doubt or you people have not understood my lecture, please note down that and mail me. Okay, I will continue the customary rule and other sources of international law in my next video lecture. Okay, thank you all.